Hey guys, you are listening to Insights with Kathleen,
Please join us while we share our insights and experiences
with the hope to inspire you to look inside of yourself.
for the answers you already have.
As with all information we receive,
Take what speaks to you
and leave the rest.
Hey, Cher.
Hey Kathleen, hey guys,
Hey, everyone.
welcome back.
Oh, man. I thought we were going to get away from the welcome back
No,
tag.
I had to, if you can say perspective 14 times, I can say welcome back. That's my one thing that I get to have.
We are truly.
Truly? You know that's a drink,
Happy.
right?
Yes, and I know somebody who really likes it. And it's not me.
We're not sponsored.
No, but we truly are happy to have everyone back listening with us today.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, you know, today, ask me what the topic is today.
Sherry,
Kathleen.
so what is the topic for today?
I'm glad you asked because when we were coming up with the topic, I kind of stopped her mid-thought and was like, this is the podcast. And you're like, I'm trusting that you're going to lead me into what we're talking about.
Let me say that one again, okay?
Okay.
So Sherry says, yeah, but I thought the topic was going to be, it's not the topic. Because the difference is when it was first being thought of or considered, it was just chatting.
Right.
But then what we do before every podcast is we ground,
Right.
right? And then we ask our spirit teams to come in and to direct us on what it is they think that our listeners would like to hear or need to hear.
Right.
Right? And for their highest good.
Of course, yes.
And our highest good, of course. For everybody's highest good. Woohoo! It's a party. So Sherry's like, well, I don't know. You were saying a lot of stuff there. So, and she was trying to get me to repeat it all. Right. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm blank. I have nothing. And she's like, what do you mean you have nothing? Are you don't remember, or you just, so she's asking me clarifying questions, which, by the way, Sherry, I really appreciate.
Of course.
It's very helpful. And then Sherry says, I got it. And then she says it, and I'll tell you truthfully, I have no idea. I don't remember it. I'm like, some reason my brain is totally turned off. And then she's like, yeah. And I'm like, I have no idea, but okay. So that's the long introduction to Sherry's side.
It better be the topic of the century. Oh my gosh. But yeah, so basically what I wanted to talk about a little bit today is something I kind of like triggered myself a little bit because me and Kathleen were having a conversation and, she's just sitting there minding her own business and out of nowhere I'm like, I feel triggered. And you're like, why? And I said, well, I'm home for the summer with my family and I'm not currently working right now. And I have this need, like in the past, to be very obsessive about things. And I kind of talked about it a little bit further about like when I was in therapy a couple of years ago. And I was talking to a therapist and I was like, hey, I just... something about having like an obsessive habit or like that obsessive fixation part that I have. So I got a little antsy now because I'm like, okay, I'm trying to have equilibrium. I'm trying not to obsess over things, but I'm trying to plan, but I'm trying not to plan too much in the future, but I'm trying to be still, but I'm just trying not to do anything wrong, I guess. And the obsessive piece was the underlining thing.
Right.
And I guess now that I'm having all this free time and just being with me, I'm trying really hard not to get into that bad habit of like, let me be really obsessive about like one specific thing because then I run myself ragged or I'm up all hours of the night and then I just get a lot of anxiety just doing the thing. So I guess my question to you.
But wait a minute. What triggered you?
What triggered me? So she's asking the clarifying questions. So I guess what triggered me is, when I was telling my therapist this, she kind of was like, stop doing that. And I'm like, what? And I think I got a little upset and I was telling Kathleen a little bit about it. I was like, I don't know why, but just that comment or just that thing of like, just stop doing that thing that you keep doing. I don't know. It just made me very upset.
Yes, because now I remember because she said to you, well, why are you doing that?
Right.
And when you were telling me that, at first I was thinking, okay, well, that's a fair question
Right.
from a therapist, because I know that you took it as judgment
Right.
But I'm thinking, well, maybe she's asking it more as an exploratory kind of a question for you to explore with inside yourself.
Right.
Kind of like, so why do you think you do that? You know what I mean? Or where do you think that comes from?
Right.
And as a way to sort of like how what you just did here,
right,
sharing with our very patient audience today,
you guys are
great.
great.
as we're a little long-winded in our talking, but as you shared that this conversation that we had brought this all up, so you knew that it wasn't necessarily what we were talking about that triggered you.
Right.
It just kind of inspired the thought, and then in that thought, you're like, oh, this just bubbled up, and now I'm going to look at it.
Right.
And that's kind of what we're going to do here, right?
Right.
All right. So just to validate, even though I thought she was asking it as more of an exploratory question, it really was a judgment, because when you followed up the question with the statement of, well, why don't you just stop doing it?
Right.
I mean, golly, believe me, trust me. I, as a parent, have probably did that to my kids a few times, like just out of sheer frustration. It's like, well, just, if you just, it's very fair to feel very triggered,
right,
by that, right?
Yeah.
So now, what was the question?
What was the question?
Got myself lost.
I guess for me, it was just kind of the how to not be super obsessive about something, and I don't know if that's the best way for me to frame that question.
All right. So let's just rewind back in time. So
all right.
So one thing that I think all of us could benefit from hearing, realizing, knowing is that when we go through like a healing,
right.
So basically you went to the therapist for help, to work through some stuff that you were struggling with.
Yeah.
So that's a level of healing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's not necessarily putting an ointment and a Band-Aid on you and waiting for the skin to heal up. This is more of your emotional body and your mind body, and you're going there for the healing for that.
Right.
And through your conversations, you have achieved certain milestones. Right.
Right.
So, but unfortunately for your poor therapist, the pinnacle of all, and what's at the center was her biggest frustration, but for you, your biggest block.
Right.
And now that's kind of what we're breaking down.
Right.
So I think a couple of things.
Right.
Where I was going with that is, the healing isn't always linear. So though you've achieved a lot of healing with this person in the past.
Right.
And for this obsessive piece, she's definitely brought you miles, towards a healing.
Yeah.
And you were doing really good, but it's not that you've slipped backwards or you're going backwards. It's just life experiences then awakens a different part of it that your emotional body's now ready to examine and to look at it and see, okay, where can I tweak that? Does this work for me? Does this not work for me? Right. So when we go to therapists, the therapist doesn't have all the answers. They may know what questions to ask.
Right.
And they don't have the answer for you or the answer for me. For me, I have those answers. You have the answers for you. And you, empowering. Dear listener, you have the answers for yourself.
Yes, you do.
But sometimes we need someone to be the guide. To help us with the map, if you will. Right. By asking the good questions. By maybe introducing a thought or a idea. Right. Or a different way of looking at it. Right. So now back to your question. I just wanted to set all that up.
No, that's a good setup. I appreciate that.
Sure. So back to your question. It's kind of like a twofold, maybe a threefold thing that I would recommend for you to really look into and dive into. Right. So it's still, I encourage you to go back and still ask yourself questions. Right. Because it's in asking the questions that sometimes it is the answer. Yeah. Okay. So where does this come from? Like you don't need to totally tag the exact specific event and time. Right. But you have a general idea. So why do I feel this way? I probably behave this way because in some way I don't feel safe.
Right.
In some way I feel like something's not being met. Right?
Yeah.
So, okay, but now how do I change this behavior? All right, that's well and good, Kathleen. You say, yeah, okay. Yeah, I can pinpoint it and I know what it is, but what do I do with it? Like, how do I change the behavior?
Yes.
How do I change the behavior? How do I change the way of thinking? And some of that, it's like a computer. You kind of need to delete the old story and put in a new story.
Can I give you an example, maybe?
Please.
Because I know in the past it was a different reason why I'd have the obsessive behavior, but now as I'm going forward and I'm not really working at the moment, I'm not working or doing anything to occupy too much of my time. So I guess when I'm by myself and being, I'm just like, oh, this is weird. I should be doing something. Like maybe I'm a little lazy. Maybe I should go out and do certain things or whatever. And I just feel like I need to make myself busy because that's where like the value is. I don't know if you've had that happen to you before.
So there's a couple things I'm hearing.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm gonna be a little fresh here. You ready?
Be fresh.
Sherry's judging Sherry.
Oh,
Sherry's little mind is judging Sherry. Sherry's mind needs a job. Sherry's mind is bored. Sherry's.
Is it Sherry or Sherry's mind? Because I'm like.
All right. So we've talked about this before, where our brains,
right,
they have a job.
Yes.
And a very good job, right?
Right.
They help process information. They help store information. And it has a job of helping keeping us as human beings safe.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to discernment, or it comes to some of those bigger decisions, or any decision really, it's not just the brain in our head that really helps us with those decisions.
Right.
We have a gut brain. So did you ever hear about people saying, listen to your gut?
Yeah, I've heard that saying.
Yeah. So we have a gut brain and we have a heart brain. Follow your heart.
Why you make it sound so corny?
I don't know.
Follow your heart. That's so funny.
So in discernment, to get the best out of discernment is being in alignment, using all three brains, but recognizing what each of them do. So we're just going to focus on the head brain for right now. Okay?
Right.
And like I said, that brain is programmed to keep us safe.
Yes. Yeah.
Don't cross the road. There's a bus coming.
I'm glad we have
Get off the train tracks. There's the train. You know what I'm saying? Don't touch the stove. It's hot.
Right.
So our brain is really good for that. And that's the great purpose of it. What it also will do is it will overreact. So like now, if we've been hurt in our past in some capacity, right? So like for me, being abused as a child, there are certain situations that, throughout my life I may have been faced with that, like all of a sudden my brain's kicking in and it kills my confidence, or it used to kill my confidence. Right. Kind of like, making me second guess everything. Yeah. But it was just trying to do its job to be, to keep me safe. Right. There'd be, for the longest time, I used to sleep with the lights on. Because my brain's like, oh, you can't go to sleep unless the light's on so you can see everything. Because I got to keep you safe. Right? Yeah. So for me to resolve that, it took me reprogramming my brain, giving my brain a different job. Right? So
yeah, go ahead.
How'd I do it?
Yes.
That's the question.
How'd you do it?
Thank you for asking the question. So for me, for that particular thing, it was a mantra that I would say. Oh. Like saying what I deserve. I deserve to feel safe. And then I can feel safe. I am safe. I am so grateful for how safe I am. So that helped. But that wasn't the only thing I would do. I would replace the thinking with better thoughts.
You have taught me that. That's a good one.
Yes, because we all possess a fabulous imagination. Right. So we need to choose. What is it that we want to imagine? Do we want to imagine something scary, or do we want to imagine something fun, safe, and good for us? Right? Right. So it's where you put that energy. And I'm oversimplifying this, and it takes a lot of practice. I want you all to know that it does take practice. It takes diligence and practice and repeating and practice. And, you know, they do say that anytime you want to change a behavior, it takes at least 2 weeks.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
You know, and then depending on how old that behavior is, it could take a lot longer, right?
Right.
So now in your situation, your brain's like, well, Sherry, I'm going to judge you because remember way back when, you know, all of these other things had started for you. This is how it started.
Yeah.
Which is not the truth.
Right.
But that's the brain story.
Yeah.
Right? And as human beings, we can paint some really colorful stories.
Yes.
And not pretty ones, right? So how do we replace the story? You replace it with something more constructive. Oh, brain, you're so cute. We're cool. I'm a cool dude. Why don't you go? Here's a magazine. Go read your magazine and leave me alone. You know?
Go over there.
Yeah, just go over there. Here's a blankie. Take a nap. We're good. Give it a hug.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So for your situation more specifically, maybe, you know, because you're home, you feel like, you know, you don't have any structure.
Right.
And for you, I would imagine that structure's where you feel safe.
Yes.
Like me sleeping with the nightlight on.
Yeah.
Yours is structure.
Yes.
Because growing up in a life of the lack of structure,
right,
having structure is what makes you feel safe.
Yeah.
So maybe it's practicing. Hey, I'm good. Even when you don't have the structure. And or, right? And I would do that. And give yourself a little structure in the non-structure. This is where it's really important that going to bed and waking up at the same time every day, eating your different meals approximately around the same day, those are all very important structural kind of things.
Right.
You know, oh, you know what? I don't really have anything to do, but I'm going to make sure, you know, every day I'm doing at least these basic human things. Showering at this time, getting up at this time.
Which I never really I mean, I shower, guys, don't worry. But, you know, consider that of like, oh, let me just, you know, eat my like meals at a consistent schedule or like, you know, shower at a consistent schedule. So that way it gives my brain a little bit of like, okay, we did the essentials.
Right. And it puts your body into a rhythm, which is really important. And I think a lot of us miss that.
Right.
Because we really can be so abusive to our poor little bodies here.
Yeah.
Staying up late. What? 4 hours sleep is more than enough for me. In the meantime, like, you know, you're sucking down all kinds of caffeine you can get your hands on and you've got bags under your eyes. Not you, but
thanks.
I would imagine others.
But not you guys.
No, there's a lovely person that comes to visit us on a regular basis here, and that poor person, it just looks like, you know.
Right.
And they're telling me, oh, no, I only need this many hours of sleep, which is really not enough for any human body to really regenerate.
Right.
Rejuvenate. But, you know, so it's our bodies would appreciate that level of structure.
Right.
Having a rhythm, you know, and then getting into those the circadian rhythms for sleep and all of that other stuff. That's really important.
That's true.
It's important to help our bodies to maximize themselves.
Right. And it kind of reminds me of like, do you know Maslow's pyramid?
Tell me about it.
Oh gosh, I don't listen. I know you probably know more than me, and maybe you guys listening do as well. But it's just kind of like, you know, the key essentials for like living. So you need like a shelter, and then like food, and then relationships, and yada yada yada. List goes on. And I guess for me, when I was attacking this, I was like, yeah, let me do all kinds of like, you know, random work. Let me just keep myself busy. And I've been lacking giving my own body the structure, the nutrients it needs, you know, all these different things. So tackling that, then going on to that could be helpful, I feel like.
Yeah, and it's also a very good first step into mindfulness.
Oh, she said the mindfulness word.
Yes, because a lot of the functions in our bodies, we don't really think about it.
Right.
You're breathing. Your heart's pumping. You're not thinking about it. Wait, Sherry. Wait. I gotta breathe. Let me breathe before I take another.
This is just ASMR. I hope you guys enjoyed that.
so we're going about things unconsciously.
Right.
So having that personal schedule for the basics.
Yeah.
That's a first step towards mindfulness, and that's why it is a first step towards mindfulness.
Ooh, that's delicious.
Thank you. All right, so we stated about coming up with a little bit of structure just for your human care.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So that establishes a little bit of something, gives your brain a little bit of something.
Right.
Right? And then maybe if that's not enough, then maybe break your day into chunks. So in the AM is free time, brain. AM is free time. We get to lounge around and watch TV and YouTube and whatever else, text some peoples. Right?
Right.
So brain, after lunch, we're going to do this.
Right.
And then whatever that this is.
Right.
Right? And then, and brain, in the evening after dinner, we're going to lay around some more and watch more YouTube and TV. No, I'm just kidding. Somewhere in there, hopefully, brain, Sherry's giving you exercise. But you understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying.
Play it back for me.
You're gonna okay.
I just want to see if you hear what I'm putting down, man.
AM. So give your brain a little bit of structure so that way it doesn't like freak out. AM for me, do whatever the heck I want. Somewhere in the afternoon, do maybe like a personal project, and then in the evening, do whatever the heck I want. But I understand what you're saying with the structure piece, because I don't know about you, but the best way I could compare like how I'm feeling is like when you go to an all-you-can-eat buffet and you're like, there's so much. What do I eat? What do I even do? So I guess for my brain, when I'm seeing all this free time, I'm like, there's so much of it. What should I be doing? How should I utilize it? It's overwhelming. So that makes a lot of sense what you're saying in the breaking it down. However, you see fit for your personal needs, right? And just doing that so that way you have a little bit of structure and you don't feel as like,
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
Beautifully played. So, people who, and I may have said this before too, so people who have anxiety.
Right.
A lot of times it's because they're way out in the future.
Right.
And then it's just looking so daunting because it's so big.
Right.
And people who are depressed, they're busy hanging out
in the past.
Wow, look at you. You do listen to me.
I mean, yeah, I heard that only from you. You were the first person to ever say that. Wow.
All right. Point taken.
It was a good point, though.
I'm teasing. No, but you're right.
Right.
And so we're going to focus just on the anxious piece, right? So
right.
The anxious piece is kind of like what you're saying. When you're looking at your day, there's so much.
Right.
Right? So being too far in the future makes it to be so much and so much bigger.
Right.
Instead of being here.
Instead of being in present.
Being in the present. But chunking things down. Even if it's something for in the future. Right? Let's just say that maybe you have a glimpse into, I could be all these things, or I want to be all these things, and I want all of these things to happen.
Yeah.
And then you're having a brain meltdown.
Yes.
Because, you want all those things to happen in like 6 months from now, but oh man, I can't. I'm frozen because I don't even know where to begin. Oh no.
That's
oh no.
me.
What? Now I can't go to the bathroom because I'm so upset.
She's replaying everything that I told her, but now you guys know, and that has happened.
Well, they would not have known if you didn't say.
It's okay. Only for you guys.
Our transparent conversation today is the Sherry and Kathleen Raw.
The premium edition. You're welcome.
But the thing is, chunking it down.
Right.
Right. Making it into smaller pieces.
Yes.
And sometimes it's about, okay, so this is the end goal. This is where I want to go.
Right.
All right. What do I need to do to get there? And then once you identify those things, then you can identify what needs to happen first. And that's how you can chunk it down and say, okay, so I need to do this, and this needs to be done by this time. And then which gives more time, or gives enough time for the next step, and then the next step, and on and on.
Right.
You can pretty much do your day that way. And the thing is by just chunking it, like in the sections that I was telling you, like the AM, maybe the afternoon, the PM, right? Or evening.
Right.
Because afternoon's PM too, but you know what I mean. It lends for a little bit of flexibility too.
Right.
So for somebody who's just like, I have to have structure because they have that obsessive compulsive kind of behavior, but you want to learn to be in the flow of things.
Yes. Yeah. That's
right.
Yes.
So
me.
So what we're talking about is having a skeleton structure. So you kind of like have like these segments, so you know that, hey, maybe it's like at 8 o'clock in the morning you're going to get out of bed.
Okay.
Right. And then you know that at 12 o'clock or 8 o'clock you're getting out of bed. 9 o'clock I'm going to have breakfast. 12 o'clock I'm going to have lunch. 5 o'clock I'm going to have dinner. And then bedtime is whatever your bedtime is. Right.
Right.
So that is a skeleton structure.
Right.
And then maybe you stick a little snack in there somewhere, you know. And then if you want to have a little more to the skeleton structure, then you can say, okay, AM's is for this type of activity.
Right.
The afternoon is for this type of activity. The evening is this type of activity.
Right.
Right. But then that's as far as I'd recommend going.
Right.
And then just allow things to appear and not to be rigid over the fact that, oh, I had to swap my AM and my evening activities because it's just not what I planned for the AM is just not going to work. Right.
Yeah.
So like how I was saying is, you know, maybe you're just going to watch YouTube videos and TV in the AM before lunch. But maybe that, you know, a friend calls or something and says, hey, Shetty, you want to get together for coffee? I can do it this time. Then, you know what? Hey, I like that friend. I'm going to go.
I like that friend.
I'm going to
go.
That YouTube.
Is that Nicolas Cage?
I don't know what it is.
No, but I understand what you mean. I can attest to that because I know for me, I would have a very rigid schedule. Mm-hmm. So because I'd make my schedule so rigid, if I even coughed wrong, my whole schedule's off and I'm late for everything that I'm doing, as opposed to like maybe doing the skeleton like you were saying. It was so nice to just have plans just appear or just flow or just stuff that would surprise me.
So you allowed in magic that way.
Which is nice because then it's like, oh, wow, yeah, I like this individual. Or, yeah, I do have time to do this activity. Wow, I have more time to do it, but I still have a little bit of structure to my schedule and it's not overwhelming.
Yeah, so does that feel good?
That does feel great.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You just solved your own problem.
And she was just there to witness it.
Well, I just uncovered some of the stones.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, you feel good about that?
I think I feel very good about that.
And I hope our listeners feel really good
I hope you guys do too.
Hey, have a good day. Remember, you are bigger than anything that you are going through or anything that is happening around you.